Welcome to West Virginia and Commonplace. Today I have a guest with me that is an innovator. He is innovating with some tools. His name is Myko, and his tools are called TailSpin tools. Myko, would you please tell my audience a little bit about yourself and tell us about these tools?
Uh, Thank you, Wilbert. My name is Myko. I am the inventor of TailSpin tools. I came to the tools through my hobby. I have been a hobbyist woodworker for the past, call it 40, 45 years, since probably I was about 10 years old. And when I was growing up, I grew up in a household where we were encouraged at every moment to try something. If you needed something, you wanted to do something, you were encouraged to try it. It wasn't a matter of, can I do this? It's a matter of, let's find out. So that's kind of how I grew up. I went through my childhood. I mean, my parents provided for us without us. We were poor without knowing it. They took very nice care of us.
Okay,
And
humble.
yeah, bought a very, very rundown house in College Point, New York, and they basically rebuilt it around us. So that was part of the culture of the home was, you need to get something done, you have to learn how to do it. So in the age before YouTube, when you could just learn anything by going online and figuring something out and watching somebody do it, my father, a florist, and my mother, a bookkeeper, basically rebuilt the house while we were living in it, tearing out walls, changing pipes, wires, everything all the way along the way. So I kind of grew up watching things getting done that most children probably grew up watching somebody hired to come in and do it. So it's just kind of a different outlook.
All right, so basically, I get you because, like, when I was growing up, I'm 35, so 80s, early 90s. Bob
Yeah.
Vila was on TV, so that's who showed you how to do. Well, he really didn't show you, but his helpers showed you how to do this and that. But you did it on your own. You did it with your parents. You all worked that.
Well, my parents did it while we were young. I mean, we participated at a certain point. One of our favorite things, if they were putting up paneling or wallpaper, one of our favorite things was to get out the markers and graffiti the entire room before the paneling went up and before the wallpaper went up. That was always fun. So the folks that bought the house after us, if they tore out any of that paneling, they were finding a lot of pictures.
Man,
This is going back into the, I guess, mid '60s would be when this was going on. So there was no Bob Vila, there was nothing like that.
at that time.
Right.
Okay. So tell us about these marking tools, because let me tell you my experience with looking over this material. Me and you spoke briefly about where I traveled between, but once I seen your marking tools, I was like, the Amish would go crazy.
The Amish.
Yes, over your tools.
Oddly enough, the Amish, for as backwards as society considers them to be, and as isolationist as society considers them to be, they're actually innovators. Going back years and years. I mean, everybody thinks that they're just living down on the farm and not doing anything. They invented the circular saw. So innovation and getting things done was their way of life. So that's actually a pretty good thing for me. For someone to say that the Amish would go crazy over it, it's like those guys knew what they were doing.
Right, and I'm saying this just from the perspective of obviously the states between me and you have a lot of Amish between them, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and all that other stuff. When I looked at what your tools are used for, I was just like, wow. I was like, I know so many guys that are Amish that build things. They like this would make their job a whole lot easier.
It certainly could. I've basically invented a new class of marking tool that I'm calling calibrated collinear marking tools. The edges of the tools are calibrated to the writing implement, and the effect of that is to allow you to draw lines around corners that line up. So the old way of doing that is you would draw a line with a square, for instance, and then move that square to the other edge of the board, kind of eyeball it, and put your pencil in there and draw the next line. And if you wanted to go all the way around a post, for instance, 99% of the time, when you get that fourth line on there, it doesn't line up with the first one as you go all the way around.
Right, and that was the thing that got me there. Just in small builds and what I do, I was amazed by that. I was like, how come? Not in a rude way, but how come it took someone so long to think of this? Like that's how innovative. Like that's why it wowed me that you did this. So go in more detail about the measurements and the different sets that people can get from you.
Well, dovetails are typically cut in. There's a range of what they call dovetail ratios, which is you can think about it like the run of a roof, where it's up 1 foot over 3 feet, would be a 1-3. So my tools come in 1-4, 1-6, and 1-8, as well as a square version. The 1-4 is used with softer woods because you need it to be wider, just because of the softer woods aren't as strong. The 1-8 are the steepest angle, and those are used in hardwoods. And the functionality of the tools allows you to draw the lines on both of the boards for dovetail joinery before you pick up your saw. Now, that might not sound like much to you, but the way dovetails have been done literally since the time of King Tut is you mark one edge of one board, which is either the pin board or the tail board, because you've got pins and tails that fit together to form the joint.
Correct.
What you would do is mark one board, let's say the pins, and you would actually cut the pins and then remove the waste. So now you've got the triangular pins standing up on the end of the board. Then you would take that board and literally hold it on the other board in order to mark where those pins are, which you do with a knife or a pencil. While you're holding one board on top of the other board, you got to get in there and mark it all the time without moving anything and making sure it's perfect. Then you cut out that material and try to get the boards to fit together. And that step there with the putting one on top of the other is called the transfer. And that's where all the mistakes happen. Because anything shifts a tiny bit, those angles aren't going to line up. If you've cut one of those pins at a slight angle relative to the board, if it's not perfectly parallel to the edge of the board, that's not going to line up. It's just not going to fit. So a lot of time is spent with chisels and knives paring out material to get those things to fit. With my tools, I'm able to mark both boards before anything is cut, which is something that nobody's ever done before.
Right, and that's why I said that it's so innovative. It kind of like my next question is probably a Barbara Walters type question. What made you just decide one day to invent this? Like, how did you become an inventor? You went from normal day Myko to inventor Myko. Like, what time did this happen?
Well, I spent my career in commercial photography.
Okay.
So large format commercial photography. So I've been basically inventing my entire life. The tool set in commercial photography comes out of your brain. You figure out what you want something to look like, and then you got to work out how to get there. So all of those pretty pictures you see of products in magazines and such, if you really study them like we do, like if you've got a spherical, shiny object, today, you would just take the picture of that spherical, shiny object and retouch out where the photographer and the camera are reflected in that shiny object. But back when I was coming up, it was all film and it wasn't retouching, it wasn't electronic. You had to figure out how to not appear there. So working out the technical aspects of this gives you the skill set to do things that people say you can't do, figure out how to do things that you've never done before. And in the course of my career, with the transition from film photography to digital photography, I invented something else. I came up with a product for large format digital photography. So I've got 2 previous patents before this.
Okay, so you're what we call a great deductive thinker.
Uh, well, I like to solve my own problems.
Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. That
Quite often, when you solve your own problem, you look around to the other people that are pursuing the same activity, and it turns out that they've got the same problem they've run into. And if that, so all of a sudden you say to yourself, okay, well, is that a market, or is that just a couple of people with the same problem? In the case of dovetail joinery, if you go on to YouTube or any of the woodworking forums, there is a lot of ink that's been spilled over how do I figure out how to make that transfer step more accurate? How do I, everybody's got a tip, everybody's got a jig, everybody's got a workaround or a little gizmo that they make, cutting it a different way, setting it up a different way, people putting it in their vise a different way, all to get those things to stay perfectly stable in order to transfer those marks so that you can cut the other side. And that's when I realized I had a market, because I hated doing that. So I figured out how to not have to do that.
okay. Now, after all this, with the audience, I'd like you real quick, if you wouldn't mind, could you plug where they can find your products?
Sure, it's tailspintools.com. Very
Okay,
simple.
real
And
simple.
if you go to tailspintools.com, there's a demonstration video with an elderly guy, that's me, demonstrating the product for cutting dovetails. And there's a couple of other smaller videos that do little demonstrations, like drawing a line all the way around a post. You wouldn't believe how simple it is to do with these tools, because the tools are calibrated to the marking. The tools are calibrated to the marking device, which in this case is a 0.7 millimeter mechanical pencil. Now, the quick explanation of the calibration: if you take a ruler, 2 identical rulers, and you just lay them down on a piece of paper together, and you move one off to the side, and you draw a line, then you bring the second one against it again, take the first one away and draw another line, you don't wind up with 1 line, you wind up with 2 lines,
Correct.
because the writing tool has thickness. Typically it's spherical, so it automatically is offset from that ruler edge. So if you, for instance, are just like, you just take a ruler and you want to draw on top of a line on a piece of paper where there was already a line, you just want to like highlight that line, you're setting up your ruler a distance away from that line in order to do that. Everybody does that intuitively, because you realize that the tip of the pen or pencil is not at the edge, it's off the edge. So by providing offsets underneath the surfaces of the marking tool, I'm able to move those lines. So if you do the same thing with the 2 rulers with my tools, you can draw the 1 line, draw the second line, and it's only 1 line.
Huh.
So that's the calibrated collinear technology. And there's a demonstration video on that also. If you go to the top tab, there's, I think it's how does it work, or what is collinear marking, and there's an explanation of how that works.
Okay, so definitely they head over to your site and they will be very informed. Now, let me ask you this: are you doing any like webinars or anything online outside of this stuff to encourage use of your tools or anything like that?
Well, we launched in January, which means that if we are a great success, we will be I like to say that every overnight success takes somewhere around 5 to 7 years. So this has been going on for a long time. We got the product into production. We launched the website in late December, and the SEO guys are going gangbusters. The PR folks are going gangbusters, which is what puts us here with you.
Yes.
And the demonstration video is up, and I'm trying to get onto woodworking related podcasts as well.
Okay.
And we're running advertising and just trying to get the word out.
Awesome. Now, one major thing with everything that you have going on here, explain this to the customers. Are you these markers, right? What are other areas that you can use these in?
Well, the dovetail markers are specifically for woodworking.
But
I
you,
don't
but
know. I don't know anybody. I mean, there is an aspect of dovetails that's used in metalworking, in large machinery, but that's typically done now with program CNC. So I don't think this really applies there. So basically, this is a woodworking product. Woodworking, furniture making, people that are making beautiful things for themselves or for sale. Woodwork on the woodworking side. If you've ever opened a better dresser, something not from IKEA, and you look at the sides of the drawers and you see those triangular tails, how that was put together, that's where dovetail joinery is used. Putting together larger pieces of furniture like cabinets, that's the market.
okay, so definitely deep down in North Carolina. I hope everyone's listening down there. We have a nice, strong audience there. So anyone out there in textile and stuff like that, definitely take a listen to this, right? Wouldn't you say?
Textile?
Yes.
Textile is more
Like a
fabric.
furniture type, yeah, like furniture.
Oh, okay, yeah, in the
Yeah,
furniture industry, absolutely.
yeah. So it's a big market for it there. So, outside of this, what are your next future endeavors after this? Because you've already invented three things.
Well, something I'm after right now is to take the calibrated collinear technology and bring it to larger manufacturers. Somebody that's going to go outside of my. I'm basically in a niche market. So the patents are filed. I've got international patent rights that are available, and I'm hoping to get this into a larger tool making company as well, so that you can take something like imagine being able to take two 12-inch rulers and draw an 18-inch long line, knowing that it's straight and true, or a 24-inch or whatever. You can just take the rulers and move one, move the other, and that line is a continuous line through physical registration. You don't have to line it up or you back up from it and it's off by a little bit. So that type of thing is that's going to be one of my next stages, is pursuing a larger tool company to take this wider.
So to take your technology and go further with it.
Yeah.
So Myko, once again, one more time, can I get you to plug where everybody can get these tools?
Yeah.
And one other thing, and where they can actually reach you, like if you have a contact portion inside there, because with your technology, I know you get lots of people asking about it because, like I said, this is something brand new. It's not
Yeah.
like it was just invented 20 years ago. You
Yeah,
sat
this
down.
is actually on the website. If you look at the front page, we're actually billing it as the first real innovation in hand cut dovetail joinery since King Tut.
Ooh,
Earliest examples of dovetail joinery are literally found in King Tut's tomb,
okay.
and we've been cutting them the same way ever since.
No variation.
No variation.
Variation.
Mark the one side, cut the one side, transfer it to the other board, and do that. So that's been going on for thousands of years. So getting the word out that there's an easier way to do that is pretty exciting for us. And so that's www.tailspintools.com. And there is a contact form on there. The email address for just general questions is inquiries@tailspintools.com.
Okay, and once again, Micah, I want to thank you for being my guest on West Virginia and Commonplace. Thank you for letting us be part of something that's innovative. You have a new technology in the world. I mean, how many people in the world can truly say that? Like, if I had that type of notoriety to me, it would just change my whole thought pattern. Like, man, I'm making choices for people that will go beyond 10 years, beyond 20 years, that will go on for centuries, like King Tut's builds.
Yeah, it's funny. For a while, I was able to say, I'm the only one in the world that's doing it this way. And that's slowly changing. I'm hoping that this is going to become the predominant method over time.
Okay, and once again, thank you for being on West Virginia and Commonplace.
Thanks for having me, Wilbert.